This is Anthropic having to lead the charge here in many ways. They're the only one who've got this sort of relationship with the Pentagon thus far. What do you make of Dario's pushback?
Yeah, and I think we should take a step back and acknowledge why they're at no pun intended, the tip of the spear here with the Pentagon, which is that a year or so ago, they seemed to go in the direction of focusing on enterprise, and what that more than a year ago, because their first contract with Palantir was in 2024. And so that's the market they're going for. And so they were part of, $200 million contracts with Palantir and the Pentagon, in part of that enterprise kind of business that they're focusing on. And so as part of that enters them into this arrangement that I think has then led to where we are now, which is this standoff in terms of how they balance their kind of ethical constitution with the need to be doing enterprise work that will bring in the revenue.
There is a lot at stake, because it's not only just a $200 million contract of work that Anthropic has, but there's almost a threat coming from the Pentagon that if you don't abide by our rules, we're going to say that you're a supply chain issue, and lots of other military-related companies are not going to be able to use your models in the future. How much of a problem would that be for Anthropic? How much are you surprised by the Pentagon's focus there?
Well, I think there are definitely two sides of this story. So what I think makes this generative AI so different from bombs and bullets and nuclear weapons is that nuclear weapons, a missile silo only has one purpose, and it was built by defense contractors. The cutting edge AI is coming out of the civilian world, and it's a classic dual use technology problem, which is it's starting in a civilian space and now it's getting appropriated and used by the Pentagon. And so it's a civilian technology that now has this critical national security, value. And so that's where this tension is, that both sides are correct, but the Pentagon does have a lot of leverage because it's the federal government.
It's the federal government, and we've been hearing from the federal government. I just want to hear a little bit more from Undersecretary Michael as what he told Bloomberg earlier today. Just take a listen.
We've been negotiating in good faith on the Department of War side for about 3 months, and we're working pretty diligently. And we sent over a proposal that we thought made a lot of concessions to the language that Anthropic wanted, and then, without any notice, they published an article where we thought we were getting close, saying that they were breaking off talks well before the deadline, which is generally not good partner-oriented practice, if you will.
And look, Anthropic in return has said that while the Pentagon's latest proposal fell short, the company continues to negotiate with defense officials and remains committed to working with the military, Sarah. So when you think more broadly, and this is an echo of what happened with Google years ago, how do you think tech policy can be written by the Pentagon, by the government, to fit current purposes?
It is surprising that we're seeing this repeat of 2018, where Google and the CEO seem to have been blindsided by the employees' reluctance to work with the Pentagon. And here we are 8 years later, and it seems like a repeat of this that could have been avoided. But I think if we put ourselves in the position of how quickly AI has been moving in the last couple of years, you can see how this just becomes kind of a somehow new territory, even though it feels like we've been here before. And so I think what was happening the last year or two, AI was moving so quickly. The Pentagon is moving quickly, trying to do things differently. And you can see then why, and I worked in the acquisition business in the Air Force, and there was always this question, why can't we move faster? This is why you can't move faster, is because things with the federal government and national security and classified work and removing leaders from Venezuela are just not the same as coming up with a grocery list for yourself at home with ChatGPT, or in this case, Claude.
Dario Amodei has been very clear that he thinks more about the implications of a grocery list, and he's written about the adolescence of technology writ large at the beginning of this year, thinking about the geopolitical implications, the implications for ethics, for our world of work going forward, Sarah. Just tell us a little bit about where you think there might be any room for agreement. Can the Pentagon go as far as to agree, as with Dario Amodei's desire, to not have surveillance of US citizens or not use models for autonomous lethal strikes without a human in the loop? Is that ever something that they could be specific enough about?
I think it's a great question, and I think that's the reluctance of Anthropic, which is that the U.S. has been saying all we want is to use AI, use Claude for any lawful use, and it's not lawful to use autonomous weapons, and it's not lawful to do mass surveillance. So what's the problem here? I think the worry, probably from the perspective of Anthropic, is that slippery slope. What does it mean to be fully autonomous? What does it mean to do mass surveillance? And so I think that's what they think is gray area that they want to be very careful about. And I think the view has been that they would rather be trying to influence safe use of AI from the inside rather than take a sanctimonious, perspective and be on the outside and not be able to influence the implementation and deployment of AI. And so I think that's what they're trying to do. And so for Anthropic's leverage, I think, is that their model is really good and that the Pentagon wants to use it. So my expectation would be that they probably will find some middle ground here before 5 p.m. today.